Final Fantasy XIV Dad of Light was a very interesting show to watch. Now, if you're expecting a review out of this, you're not going to get it. This is just me basically saying that this show brought in so much nostalgic memories for me that I wanted to share just my experiences of playing video games with my parents. Now, if you don't know what Final Fantasy XIV Dad of Light is, it's about a father and son developing a bond while playing an online role playing game called Final Fantasy XIV. And apparently, this is based on a true story. And if it is, I gotta give them a round of applause because that's an amazing story to me. The earliest known memory of me playing video games with my parents was probably around when I got my very first system, which was the N64. Me and my family would always play that game system. There were a couple friends that would come over. We would play GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, WWF No Mercy, WCW versus NWO Revenge. I was the master of Star Fox 64, and believe it or not, that was the very first video game I ever beat. And I remember beating it for the very first time. People were like, "Dude, congratulations!" Giving me high fives and shit. It was such a cool moment. But I remember as a kid, there were two games that I would play with my mom. They were Mario Kart 64 and Diddy Kong Racing. Obviously, both kart racing games. And both were very fantastic, in my opinion. And I just remember having really good memories with that. She wasn't, my mom was not the best video gamer on the planet, but she had fun with it, and I think she really did have fun playing her kid, and it was a very, very good experience. Memories like those, I think, are gonna stick with me for the rest of my life. Now, after initially getting my N64 and playing a shit ton, I had that N64 for a very, very long time, and I just remember everyone talking about the GameCube, PS2, Xbox, and then I was just the one with the N64, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. Final Fantasy XIV Data Light impressed me the most in terms of showing that the bond between parent and child is a very, very cool thing. And as I said, this show just like flooded a ton of memories of me with my parents playing video games. And I just remember those being like the coolest thing ever. I think it's really awesome when you introduce to your parents something that you really enjoy, something that you hold to heart, and sharing it with your parents. And then it's a very, very cool thing when they take an interest in your hobby and they sort of help you out and they sort of become a fan with you. And I think that's a really cool thing to experience. One of my most fondest memories of playing video games with my parents was actually around the time when I got my first Xbox, the original Xbox that came out in the year 2000, I think. Um, I don't know when it came out. I'm sorry, I'm not that much of a gaming historian, I guess, but I remember getting that when I was like 12, maybe. It was somewhere around that time, and it was when the Xbox 360 was at its peak. And my dad got me an Xbox instead of a 360. Now, I didn't care. I thought it was still cool that I was getting a new game system because that was kind of rare at the time. And the first game that we played was Halo. And I remember playing through the story and my dad sort of watching me being like, this is a really cool looking game. And I was like, hey, it's two player. Want to play with me? And he was like, sure, why not? So we plug in the second controller and we play through Halo 1 and we beat it together. And I believe that was the very first video game I beat with my parents. But after we beat it, we decided that, maybe we wanted to kill each other. So we killed each other in the multiplayer all the time, and it was a ton of fun. My dad actually was really good, and for the longest time, he was like the best player. And I was just like, dude, I'm supposed to be the best player. I'm the kid of the family. So it was very funny with that. And I remember getting my mom involved with Halo. And she was not the best player in the world, but she did try and she actually did really get better. I got to give her credit for that. And I remember one day getting up ready for school. And, before I had to leave, she turned on the Xbox and was like, I'm going to practice by playing through the story. And I was like, okay. And when I came back, she told me that, she beat the game and she got a lot better. And I thought that was such a cool moment. By the time when we were done playing with Halo 1 and we were all done with that, I remember being like, there is a sequel to this game called Halo 2. And I remember my mom and dad looking at me like, really? And I was like, yeah. And immediately they were like, well, we got to go get it. So right then and there, we all went to the video game store. I forget what it was called, but it was a really cool place. And I remember going through the Xbox section, and we ended up buying like 4 or 5 games. I don't remember any of them, uh, except maybe WWF Raw, which is not that game. But we also got Halo 2 that day. We got the Steelbook one that came with a DVD. We never cared about that. We just cared about playing the game. After picking the game up at the game store and driving home, I remember them going like, this is a pretty big deal. We should probably pick up some pizza. And we got some pizza, and it ended up turning into like a little mini party. Honestly, like it was actually kind of a big deal for my parents to be able to play this game, and it was such a cool feeling. Now, in the show, I remember him setting up the PS4, and he's playing the game privately. He's not outright saying, "Hey, let's play Final Fantasy 14 together." He basically bought a PS4, hooked it up so that his dad can play Final Fantasy 14, while the son goes into his room and plays the game on his computer. And I never did anything like that, um, but it is a very cool moment, and I think the actors pull it off very well. I'm not too familiar with a lot of Japanese live action actors, but I think they did a really good job, and they actually showed the emotion of like, this is a really cool bonding experience, and it's something that I think people are going to cherish forever when they do that with their parents. I wish I could go back and do all the things I did with my parents, but sadly I can't. And it is tough, but I do remember looking back fondly on those memories and being like, man, those were the good old days, and I still do to this day, and it's a very cool thing to do. I highly recommend that you check out Final Fantasy 14 Dad of Light. Now, you don't have to be a Final Fantasy fan to necessarily watch this. You don't even have to be a video game fan to watch it. I think anybody that can bond with their parents can watch this and be like, those were the good times. And I really think that the actors in the show really pulled that off. They pulled off the emotion. They had a good bond. They had a very good chemistry. It's only 8 episodes long, so it's not going to take you very long. And yeah, I do recommend it. I think they did a really good job, and it's on Netflix, so win-win. I think this video has gone on long enough. So let me know down in the comment section below if you have any memories of playing video games or just doing anything that was really cool with your parents and just having a bonding experience. And if you are a parent that's watching this, let me know down in the comment section below on what you and your kids bond over, because I would really like to hear it. If you have seen this show, let me know what you thought about it down below as well. Also, please give it a like if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. But all I care about is just you listing out your really awesome memories. And I do look forward to reading that. Big thanks to Warpbait, Stuff We Play, and Nia Chan for supporting me on Patreon. You guys rock.